Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rukah Kodash. I want to give double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, who rule well, and salutations and much love to the rest of you sincere Aki. I'm pushing the word in truth and sincerity. This is the cleric Izar coming at you with another lesson. I'm continuing on my lot to bring you my ongoing series from Experts of Hollywood, This Factory of Perverseness. Another observation of predictive programming and how art imitates life and vice versa. Just a reminder, the purpose of my videos is to show correlations. A correlation is an observation of a mutual relationship or connection between two or more things. I use movie scenes to extract or extrapolate a narrative. I'm not glorifying the Hollywood culture or life. I have a wide knowledge of films, whether they be foreign or domestic, and I just use snippets as an example to bring out similarities and those correlations. To quote Cecil B. DeMille, the greatest source of material for motion pictures is the Bible. I call this lesson Jacob and Esau mentioned in the Planet of the Apes. Okay. Now, the image I have on display is from the television series Planet of the Apes. And it came out during the mid-70s. And I'm going to concentrate on one particular episode. And basically, when I came into the truth, I can't recall whether or not, because I was too young to remember seeing this particular series, and it didn't really even come on reruns, and if it did, it probably was on the Sci-Fi Channel. But I was always a fan of the original Planet of the Apes films, even before coming into the truth. But by the time I came into the truth, I knew exactly what the Planet of the Apes was talking about, and it's basically, those orangutans, gorillas, and chimpanzees, or the blacks, the Native Americans and Latinos. But it's also talking about the future and what's going to be happening. It also shows that there's a nuclear apocalypse, shows that the America being destroyed, nuclear fire. But this particular TV series is from an alternate take on the mainstream films. And it's also not like the Rise, Dawn, and War that came out recently. It's also a lot different than the one that came out with Mark Wahlberg, directed by Tim Burton. But this particular series, two astronauts basically travel in the future, just like in the original Planet of the Apes. And instead of just Carlton Heston's character surviving by the end of the film, in this particular TV series, they have 3 astronauts that arrive, but only 2 survive from the jump. And so basically, they go on a run from these gorillas, as well as the orangutans, which are the wise ruling council, the gorillas, which are the military, and the chimpanzees, which are the science and the historians. All right. So that's basically the same gist of this particular series. But well, anyway, the 2 astronauts become fugitives in this land. So it's almost like a take on like the Incredible Hulk or the Fugitive, where you always get a new episode with these gorillas, orangutans, and chimpanzees on the chase for these fugitives. But one particular chimpanzee empathizes with the 2 human astronauts, so he helps him along the way. His name's Galen. He's played by Roddy McDowall, who played, he eventually played Caesar in the original Planet of the Apes films. But in this particular episode, I'm going to concentrate on, it was released on November 1st, 1974. That was its release date. The title of it is called The Deception. It was directed by Don McDougall, and it was written by Anthony Lawrence, Joe Ruby, and Ken Spears. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Joe Ruby or Ken Spears. They eventually started their own company called Ruby Spears Productions. But basically, I'm going to go ahead and bring up this particular scene in this particular episode. So basically, it's almost a take on the KKK, showing how in this Planet of the Apes kingdom, how just like so there was the KKK in this current kingdom, hunting down and murdering and raping and killing you Jakes. They show that there's a form of the KKK in the Planet of the Apes called the Dragoons. And so anyway, there was this girl who's blind, and she can't determine who's an ape or who's a human, even by voice. She has to tell by touch, like just like any blind person would. So, basically, she falls in love with one of the humans, thinking that he's an ape. Because Galen, the one I was telling you about, who was the runaway fugitive chimpanzee that ran away with the astronauts, he basically placed his hand for the other chimpanzee to touch. So she thought that one of the astronauts was actually an ape as well. But when the astronaut goes to tell the blind chimpanzee of the reason why they had that little deception, he thinks of a particular biblical story. And I was really shocked when I was watching this, because after all this time, as significant as a Bible story this is, and after all the amount of episodes, because this series only lasted for one season, it was canceled shortly afterwards. But out of all the biblical stories they picked this one story. And bear with me just a moment, because I want to be able to bring out the scriptures that go into this. Now I'll feel bad for anyone that needs to go ahead and reread it. But let me go ahead and first let me bring up the scene, and then while you guys are listening to this scene, you can see what I'm talking about here. Bear with me just a moment.
This reminds me of a story my mother used to tell me when I was very young.
Tell me.
Well, this is a story about an old blind man named Isaac and his two sons, Jacob and Esau. Esau was a hunter. He was strong and hairy, and his father idolized him. Old Isaac was very sick, and on his deathbed, he gave Esau his blessing, which was a big thing in those days. Now, the other son, Jacob, had very soft, smooth skin, and he wanted his father's blessing as well. So he pretended to be his brother Esau by covering his hand with a piece of goat skin. And Isaac was fooled into thinking that he was touching Esau. And he gave Jacob the same blessing.
All right, you hear that? Okay, so now if you want to read that from a biblical standpoint, and the water to the Most High for getting back into this chapter so you would know. But it's Genesis chapter 27, starting at the first verse and going all the way down. I guess you could say to around at least I guess you could say 41. All right, because it talks about the deception, Isaac blessing Jacob, as well as the stolen blessing, starting with verse 30. Okay, but just to show you the significance behind that story and how detrimental it is to understand the significance of where we're at in Bible prophecy, and how that particular blessing basically shaped where we're at today, and showing that that particular so-called deception, because it was all up to the Most High that Jacob would get the blessing anyway. All right, because usually it was for the firstborn. Esau was the firstborn, but it was in the Most High's desire for Jacob to get that. Okay, well, I just wanted to show that out there, and I just wanted to bring that out. And I know we always mention Planet of the Apes from that standpoint. Unfortunately, you can't find this series. It's out of print. I had met one of the actresses on the series named Eileen Dietz, and she had mentioned to me that it's out of print, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, you could find the bootleg version, but you can't find this on Netflix or Amazon, or I'm not even sure Hulu. I mean, I did find one bootleg spot, but it's probably not not something that I would I put up here for anyone to look up. But so I would say if anyone has this series, you might want to check out this episode. Once again, it's episode 8, The Deception. And like I said, it brings out the story of Jacob and Esau. Okay. All right, well, I just wanted to share that. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praises to Yahweh by Shem Yahushai, who gives me the strength and the spirit to continue to strive and endure in these last days. Shalom to the hopeful elect, and on to the next video.